In 1984, Ford tried to make a Mustang to appeal to the Porsche owner crowd. However, the Mustang faithful absolutely abandoned this car from the get-go. The SVO was a black bullet, a culmination of the latest and greatest 1980s technology Ford could get its hands on. We're talking turbochargers, intercoolers, full disc brakes, full aero kit. Performance-wise, it was actually better than the GT. Why was the SVO a flop?
From Ford Special Vehicle Operations, the new Mustang SVO with a 175 horsepower turbocharged engine, Coney gas shocks, Goodyear NCT tires, four-wheel disc brakes, 5 speeds, articulated driving seats. The new Mustang SVO, the machine, speaks for itself. Have you driven the best-built American cars? Have you driven a Ford lately?
With a commercial like that, you have to wonder, how much of a success was the SVO? We have all the 1980s performance trademark, overhead cam, turbocharging, contoured seats, disc brakes all around, and even a fake V8 engine noise. How are these not flying off the lot? Now, personally, I want an SVO Mustang. If I were to buy another one, that is the exact car I would get, just because it's such an oddball. And what I think is fascinating is how, when the EcoBoost Mustang came out a couple years back, it was almost like history repeated itself. 2.3 turbocharger, more horsepower than V8 Mustangs only a couple years ago. So with that being said, let's see what Motor Week actually thought about this car. Personally, I think the SVO Mustang is what the Mustang should have become. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at a time period review, and we're going to see, is there a logical reason why Mustang owners are against change? Did it make sense to still go with a V8 GT over a modern turbocharged SVO Mustang?
Latest round being fired by Ford, the Mustang SVO. This black bullet isn't just another case of a big V8 tied to a tired but familiar sporty coupe chassis. It's a total rethink of the Mustang by Ford's secret Special Vehicles Operation Brain Trust. They wanted to see just how much life was left in this old steed and managed to find a new high-tech fountain of youth.
Now, there's a couple interesting things John said there in the beginning. By 1984, the Fox body Mustang was already a little bit on the old side since it debuted in 1979. There's been a couple updates here and there, but this was around the time when there was talks of, is the next Mustang going to be front-wheel drive, i.e. the Ford Probe? Now, obviously that didn't happen, but it's kind of interesting that way back in the early to mid-80s, they were already saying, oh, the Fox Chatty Mustang is clearly tired.
Being familiar with the lackluster handling of past Mustangs, our hands-on experience with this SVO was a real eye-opener. It was still fast, but this time there were no second thoughts about entering a sharp curve. Since power was now from a revised and torquey turbocharged 4-cylinder, for all practical purposes, the SVO Tang felt like an entirely new car.
I've never met a Mustang owner that actually calls a Mustang a Tang. Tang is a drink, not a car.
We finally took delivery of our own gray mare in December, and most of our crew seem to agree that styling is a love-it-or-leave-it affair. The front-end treatment is distinctive, with a large off-centered hood vent and thin slotted grille. We expect the deep and unattractive headlight holes will eventually be filled with the new flush-mounted lights just introduced on the Continental Mark VII. That should help greatly. At least it should complement the standard air dam-mounted driving lights. Stylistic changes to the profile are more limited, though no less unusual. They include a huge biplane spoiler on the rear hatch and spats on the rear wheel cutouts to protect against stones from the fat 50 series NCT radials. The two-level spoiler is supposed to provide more road-holding downdraft pressure at slower speeds, say 80 or 90 miles an hour. Of course, few owners will ever drive even that fast, at least on a regular basis.
Well, okay, John, I didn't know we were going to be that sassy about it. Honestly, one of my favorite parts about the SVO is the styling. They took what was still kind of a hodgepodge of 70s and 80s styling cues, and they actually modernized it. Now, they're absolutely 100% right when they say that the flush bed headlights are a requirement. I feel like the SVO finally hit its stride in 1986, but 1984 is still pretty close to where they were starting out at. I love the functional offset hood scoop. I love the 5-lug wheels, the dual spoilers. It does look a lot classier than a normal Mustang, which is kind of what they were going for. They were wanting something that was a little bit more European on the outside. I also do think the taillights are probably one of my favorite parts. I love the spoiler. One thing I also love is the fact that it has a single exit exhaust, so it definitely shows like this is a 4-cylinder. We're not trying to pull a fast. I always thought the spats were kind of like a little whatever-ish, but the taillights. You would see these taillights come back again in the 93 Cobra, but I always love the fact that they did the little, pinstriping on to give it just a little bit more uniqueness. To me, this is probably my favorite reason why I love the SVO. Everything on it is unique. You're not going to see it really be trickled down to any other Ford Mustang.
What really charges, though, is in its mechanics. That large air vent isn't just decoration. It feeds a new intercooler attached to the 2.3-liter turbocharged 4 introduced last year on the Thunderbird. An intercooler allows the turbo to inhale denser air, and on the SVO it generates 30 more horsepower than the same engine without it, along with up to 14 pounds of boost. Torque is now rated at 210 pounds, almost on par with high-output V8s. Suspension bits and pieces include fully adjustable Coney shocks and struts, large anti-sway bars, and in the rear, traction bars to aid road contact. SVOs made after January will also include a set of longitudinal rear axle stabilizers, similar to the ones installed here on the Thunderbird Turbo Coupe.
And little did they know that those rear stabilizers were going to be in production until 2004. So this is the interesting part about the SVO. Now in the video they didn't mention it, but I did take a hand to go look it up. When it comes to torque, it was at 210. And over here on the Late Model Mustangs Restoration's website, they actually do show how much horsepower it made. 175. So since they said like, oh, the intercooler gives it 30 more horsepower, we have to assume that probably in the turbo coupe, I think it was right around 145. Now what's interesting is during that same time period, we have the 5-liter V8, both carbureted and with EFI. It's actually interesting to see how quickly the SVO did catch up to the V8, because we can also see right here the 2.3-liter turbo non-intercooled, which I'm actually surprised they had that in 84. I thought that was maybe a 79 to 83 option, but scoring a little bit more on this website, it did jog my memory. I forgot that during the 84 model year, they did have the GT350 Anniversary Edition. I believe that's where the non-intercooled turbocharged engines went in. I also believe that they threw in like a 5-liter V8 as well, but I know for a fact it was the 2.3-liter turbo non-SVO. It's just very interesting to see like, oh wow, look how quickly the SVO caught up to the 5-liter V8. I mean, even with fuel injection, it started to pass it up.
On the Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. Even without this trick, the SVO corners flat and fast and is more balanced than the hot dog T-Bird. The SVO corners flat and fast and is more balanced than the hot dog T-Bird.
The hot dog T-Bird? John, you might need a new editor on that one, buddy.
And minimal fade. From 55 miles per hour, this special vehicle's 3,100 pounds were brought to a halt in a brief 123 feet. The range over 6 hard stops was from 119 to 128 on a smooth, dry track. Our car came in straight in its lane, and with firm but manageable pedal pressure, its brakes offered secure control. At full gallop, the SVO's Turbo 4 comes on quickly, with peak torque at only 3,000 RPM. 0 to 60 was dispatched in only 7.9 seconds. Over a quarter mile, the smooth, if long-shifting 5-speed manual showed its fine gear spacing in a quite fast 16.7 seconds at 87 miles per hour. However, as the SVO gets closer to its top speed of 130, engine noise is so loud that you might suspect permanent power plant damage.
How wonderful, just listening to that 2.3 turbo Pinto engine just screaming its heart out. And I think that's kind of one area that we're starting to see. I don't think it's actually that Mustang owners are against change. They just need to see a solid reason as to why they would spend the money. Because here's the thing, 0 to 60 in 7.9 seconds, I feel that's kind of slow. Especially a quarter mile of 16 seconds, that feels like it's pretty slow. Like, I absolutely agree that it probably handles much better, and I of course like the styling. But when you're talking about 0 to 60 that I don't even think is better than a GT V8, or at least on par, That's kind of a tough pill to swallow because these cars were considerably more expensive than a GT V8. Now, I did do a little bit of extra looking when it came to the performance, and I took a look on Car and Driver's website. Now, they actually clocked 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds. Not considerably better, but if I knew how much money I spent on the car, which right here they say it's as tested at $16,000, we're going to be talking about what that actually is today, because I feel like that is kind of a bummer. But first, let's just see if there's any other highlights.
Habitat of the SVO denotes fast company luxury. The multi-adjustable front bucket seats provide Germanic support without being overly hard. Comfortable cloth is the standard cover, with leather optional. And you can have any interior color you want, as long as it's charcoal gray. The SVO offers full instrumentation. That includes a boost gauge and a speedometer that registers anything past 85 with large, numberless red marks. The SVO also is one of Ford's first cars of recent vintage to take the horn off the stalk and put it back where it belongs. The full-length console contains a sturdy Hurst-developed shift linkage that approaches European smoothness, and a trio of aircraft-like switches. One of them allows you to alter the engine calibration for regular or high-test unleaded fuel.
I love the earlier Fox body interiors. That delicious plastically click as they hit those switches. There are parts in this car that I wish trickled down. Number one has to be those seats. They look so much more comfortable and supportive, though I will admit the little hand pump to adjust bolstering looks a little cheesy and a little suggestive, if you will. And also that steering wheel. But look at that layout. I do think it's comical, though, that after 85, it's just, here's some red dashes, who needs to go past 85? But if you were, just kind of a way you could keep track. Meep, meep. A little cheesy, but yeah, it's true. That was kind of a new thing at the time. But I do enjoy how this interior looks. It's very purposeful. As they said, it's very Germanic. There's not a bunch of chrome. There's not a bunch of fake wood. And I think that's what they were trying to do with this Mustang, is they were trying to make something that, had the performance of a GT without it being a Mustang good old boy GT. Even the gas mileage isn't that terrible either. What I think is fascinating, though, is that the EcoBoost Mustang is still right around that same gas mileage, even with, considerably better performance, but it's also all right, still rated the same. And that kind of brings me to what we've been trying to figure out. Are Mustang people against change? I've had Mustangs for 18 years, and I know when the Mustang Mach-E came out, everyone flipped a lid. And I get it. The Mustang Mach-E is a solid SUV that they threw the Mustang name on for marketing reasons. I think calling it Lightning would have been much more interesting, or even just Mach-E. And I know when it came to the EcoBoost Mustang, the idea of a turbo 4-cylinder engine doesn't really fit the narrative that we've made with Ford Mustangs, where it's they're 8-cylinder performance cars. Well, Mustangs were started out as just a nice coupe for a young person to buy. And that's fine. I think what they were trying to do with the SVO is that they were trying to make something different. Because at this point, the Mustang nameplate was only 20 years old. The first one came out in 64. This is 1984. They were trying to think, okay, the people who were growing up when they were younger and they wanted a Mustang, how can we appeal to the people who might have a little bit more money? Looking it up there, and we just saw it on Car and Driver's website, $16,000 in 1984 is $51,000 today. So we're talking GT premium prices already. And that's what they were trying to make. I think they were genuinely trying to make a GT premium. A person who would go for an SVO isn't going to be cross-shopping this with a Camaro. They might have, but they're trying to get people who are looking at a 944. They're trying to get people who are looking at a BMW coupe. They're trying to get a little bit higher up. Sophisticated handling, Euro styling, a Euro interior. They were trying to get yuppie money. And unfortunately, that price point is just a lot to accept when it's just a Ford with Ford built. And to me, this is definitely still during the time where brand cachet really was becoming important. People wanted to say they had a Porsche. They want to say they had a BMW. Saying you had a Mustang, I always say I have a Mustang, it didn't have the brand cachet that they were wanting to have. So, was the SVO a failure? From a performance and technology standpoint, no. I think it was fantastic. Was it a failure in trying to attract a higher quality audience? Yes. If they wanted to have a higher quality touring car of some sort, make this a Capri. They should have done an SVO Capri. They should have even maybe done some sort of baby Lincoln modification. You know, I mean, the Lincoln Mark 7 was out and it was built on this chassis. Maybe that was the area. Make this like a miniature Mark 7. What do you think? It's 1984. Would you spend $16,000 on a turbocharged 4-cylinder Mustang? Or would you be going for something else? Something Porsche? Or would you be going down market with the GT V8? Leave your comments down below. If you like this type of comment, go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe. I try and do these weekly, and honestly, I'm doing this for fun. Hey, thank you so much for watching Brown Roush. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so. I think I have the button over here. I'm really big into data and just make sure everything's like right. So leave me a comment down below about like what you liked about this video, what you don't. I actually do read all the comments, even the mean ones. And feel free to follow me on Instagram, TikTok. It's Brown_Roush.